I'm Anna, the teen librarian at the Farmington Library in Connecticut. Thank you for joining us for another week of take-home crafts. This week we are going to be making some canvas art. If you don't have one of the craft packs from the library, feel free to join us. Enjoy! All you need for this activity is a canvas, several colors of paint, 2 pieces of sandpaper, a roll of washi tape, or of very thin painter's tape, and a couple types of paintbrushes. If you're following along from home and don't have a kit from the library, I'll put the materials in the description below. This activity will be done over the course of 2 sittings. During the first sitting, you will tape out your canvas to block off the places where you want to paint, put down your first coat of paint, and let it dry. You can then decide if you need a second coat of paint or if you like how it looks with just 1 coat. Your last step is to peel off the tape and rough up your final painting. Okay, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is move some of my materials out of the way, and I'm going to tape off the canvas. You at home can create any design you want. What I'm going to show you today is how to create the simple chevron look that we have on the demo. I'm going to achieve that look by doing 1 line of tape down the middle of my canvas, and then 1 to either side. After I have pieces of tape in place, I'm going to add some diagonal pieces going up and down in alternating directions in between. That'll make more sense once we've got some tape down on the canvas. You do want to smooth your tape down relatively firmly so that no paint can sneak underneath your tape. It's okay if your piece is longer than your canvas, it'll just drape over the edges. And I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not using a ruler today. This looks like about the center of my canvas. I'm going to really smooth the tape down so it sticks firmly and no paint can sneak underneath. If little bits do, it's okay, but you want to keep relatively clean lines. I'm going to tuck this under the edges of my canvas. I'm going to do 2 more lines, halfway in between either side. And again, eyeball it to see what looks like about halfway. This looks pretty good to me. The places where you have the tape are in your finished project, the bits of your canvas that will be white, that won't have any paint on them, if that helps you picture what you want to do here. And again, tuck the tape ends underneath. And we're going to add a 3rd piece of tape right along here. If measuring is easier for you, if you prefer to make it even, what you can do is take a ruler and lay it along the edge of your canvas. This is an 8 by 10 inch canvas. So you would just have to do some math and determine the halfway point, 5 inches, and tape along the 5-inch mark. And then the halfway point of each half, which is 2.5 inches. So you would make sure that the middle of your piece of tape is at the exact halfway point. Here is our 3rd piece. Okay. You can already see how this is starting to look like the demonstration. We have these 3 pieces of tape on here already. Now I'm going to add these angled diagonal pieces with space in between. We're going to do some pointing this way, and then some pointing this way, and then some pointing this way, and some pointing this way. I'll show you the first few and then speed it up so you can follow along from home. You'll just want to pause the video while you finish up your taping. And again, it's okay if your tape is longer than the area that you're trying to tape in. Just make sure it doesn't overlap areas where you do want paint to hit. So I'm going to put the first piece here. And the second piece, the tape's a little bit too long. You can always tear off a little pieces if you cut your tape too long. I'm just tearing it with my fingers, but if you are more comfortable cutting it with scissors, you can definitely do that as well. This tape does tear pretty easily. Once you have finished taping your canvas, you'll just want to go over all of your tape with your finger and press it down very well. You don't want any bubbles or gaps that the paint can sneak underneath. My tape goes just over the edge of my canvas, but not all the way down. If you would like to paint all the way around the edges of your canvas, feel free to just make sure that your tape goes all the way over the edge. Okay, now that you are done taping, you can begin to paint your canvas. For the demo canvas I did, I went one color at a time. For example, with dark green, I painted here, here, and here. Dark blue, I painted here, 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 and here. It doesn't matter how many sections you do of each color. All that matters is that you like how it looks. Make sure you get yourself a cup of water to rinse your brushes in, and a couple of paper towels, if you have them, or napkins, to dab your brushes on to dry them in between colors. Again, I'm just going to smooth out a couple more bubbles in the tape that appeared. I'm going to start with my gold paint and my sponge brush. I get a little bit of paint on my brush. It really doesn't matter how much you use, and it does not matter which spot you pick to paint first. The tape is going to stop you from getting the paint over the lines into other sections. One single coat of this paint created a very light covering. I can go back with a little bit more paint immediately, even though it's not dried, and just do a bit of a thicker layer. We are going to be going over all of this with sandpaper at the end, so it's okay if it's got a bit of a rustic look. If you decide that you want a thicker coat of paint, you can always come back and do a second coat once this is dry. And again, I'm choosing the segments here at random. I like to do about the same number of each color, but that's really up to you. Once you have filled all of the sections on your canvas, it's time to let the paint dry. Welcome back! I waited overnight to let the paint dry, and then this morning I added an extra coat of paint to each of the colors, and then I waited about 5 hours to let the paint dry again completely. If you would like to add a second coat of paint to your canvas, what I'd like you to do is pause the video, go and add an extra coat of paint to your canvas. Make sure to rinse your brush between paint colors, and then let your paint dry for about 5 hours, or until there is no dampness if you touch it. After that is the fun part. Once your paint is completely dry, I can touch this and nothing comes off onto my fingers, we get to peel off the tape, and that's going to leave behind the white areas you see here on this canvas. You can begin to do this by lifting your canvas from the newspaper. It might stick a little bit, but that's okay. And starting from the edges, we're going to peel the tape off. I'm going to start with whatever pieces are kind of lifting up on their own. If it wants to peel longer pieces of tape, you can do that. I'm going to peel slowly and carefully to make sure that I don't accidentally remove any sections of paint. Okay, do you see how there is some extra paint that bled underneath the tape here? I pushed down the tape as firmly as I could, but little bubbles of tape kept popping up. That's okay. Like I've said before, we're going to be sanding this to give it a rustic look, so it's okay if there's little spots that don't look perfect. It's still going to look awesome in the end. Okay, and this is what my canvas looks like with all the tape removed. You can see, like I was saying, we have a few areas where there's a little bit of paint that went underneath, a little bit of a wet area got on here. That's okay. Next thing I'm going to do is our last step, and then we're almost done. You have 2 pieces of sandpaper in your bag. One piece that, if you feel it, feels very rough, and the other piece is pretty darn smooth. If you use the rough piece of sandpaper on your canvas, it's going to take off a lot of paint and make it look very rustic. If you use the very smooth sandpaper, it's not going to change much. It might just make it look a little bit worn in and older. I'm going to do a combination of both pieces. I have not tested it yet, so we'll see how it comes out together. I'm going to start with the rough pieces. I'm going to fold it so I have a smaller piece so I can hold on to it a little bit better. And I'm just going to try going through and sanding in a couple spots. I'm just kind of wiping the sandpaper over the canvas. And you'll see after just a couple wipes with the sandpaper, a little bit of paint has come off. You can see it here, a little bit over here. I don't want to take off too much paint. But another cool thing that happens is when I run the sandpaper over the paint, it smears a little bit of dried paint into the white areas as well, which will help make this look like a little bit more like I meant to have it there. Just going to do a little bit more with this sandpaper, and then I'm going to switch to the finer sandpaper. I don't want this to look too rustic. Okay, you can brush off any paint dust that comes off. This is what it looks like after I use the rough sandpaper. Next, I'm going to take the smooth sandpaper and go over it a little bit more. This one isn't changing much, just smoothing things out a little bit. Go back with a little bit more of the rough sandpaper in a couple spots. You can keep doing this as long as you want. You can do it as little as you want. You don't have to use the sandpaper if you don't want to. Again, brush off any paint powder. And there you go, my canvas is done. I would love to see what you did with your canvases and how you combined your colors. If you would like to, please feel free to email us a picture of your finished canvas. Have a great day!